Welcome to Waiver Watch Episode 1 on November 17th, 2019. We are 107waivers.com, and each Sunday we will look at the previous week's Part 107 waivers and analyze some of the most interesting ones and give you a little bit of spiel on that. That is what we're doing today.
Spiel.
The spiel. Maybe we'll do something else, but when are we throwing these out, Jakey? About what time on Sundays?
Yeah, every Sunday, kind of the evening time. So, yeah, halftime of your, Sunday football game. You pull this up, watch it.
Perfect.
Yep,
So our goal is to keep it less than 15 minutes, right? So we can sneak it in between halftime between the game.
that's right. Short and
Do it.
sweet.
All right,
So,
so kick it off, Jakey. Tell us what is so cool about this week's waivers.
all right. Well, we had a total of 17 waivers approved this week. Most of them are 107.29 daylight operations waivers, as usual. But we did have one 107.39 waiver that's operations over human beings. And that will be the focus of our spieling this week. So,
The spieling has begun.
yeah. So we have a newcomer. Well, not quite, but it you can guess this is not a pair 010739 waiver this week we have Alaska Aerial Media, Ryan Marlowe, the responsible party, and they're using an Indemnis Nexus parachute. So Indemnis is the company. They're out of Anchorage, Alaska, and they have an ASTM compliant Inspire 2 parachute. So that'll be that's the safety mitigation for their waiver this week.
And that Indemnis parachute, it has a very, very sleek design. Wouldn't you agree? Looks kind of like a torpedo, and we were talking a little earlier that it looks actually maybe like a little bit of a Nerf gun when it's
Yeah.
shooting the parachute out. It has a little
Right.
orange cap on the front, and if you go look on their website, kind of looks like a Nerf gun.
Yeah.
Certainly, probably more effective than a Nerf gun, though, at recovering your Inspire system with your ProRes license and everything on it, trying to keep all that intact when it crashes to the ground. Hopefully, it
Yep.
doesn't, right?
Well, yeah, so you're protecting your payload and also people on the ground. So that's really the
Main
what
goal.
the FAA is concerned about. Yeah, exactly.
They don't care if you go trash your Inspire; they just don't want you to hurt someone with it.
Exactly. Yeah, so the ASTM testing, it's ASTM 3322-18. That's the standard. Uh, these companies have to go through a bunch of testing to show that the parachute's reliable, reduces kinetic energy. It, will actually prevent you from harming somebody on the ground if you do have an incident or the aircraft comes down. So Indemnis went through this, and that's really the core of these 10739 waivers is that standard.
And that standard has 45 unique test deployments to test the effectiveness of that parachute. So basically, there's several different configurations on hovering, like full motor loss at just a hover versus automatic triggering, manual triggering, full speed forward, etc. So they really they really do a robust testing with this system, and it often costs these companies several thousands of dollars, if not tipping up to the hundred thousands of dollars to figure out how to make the parachute ASTM compliant. So bravo to all those companies that are putting that time and effort into it. That's why these parachutes cost some money.
Yeah, I think this one is on their website for about $5,000. So, yeah, not a cheap investment, but hey,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
saving you from injuring somebody and gives you some extra
Right. Right. That's a
uh,
small
responsibilities.
marginal fee to pay to ensure safe operation. So why don't you kick us off into the unique provisions of this waiver?
Yeah, so there are some pretty standard ones similar to pair zeros, but like you said, let's get into some of the unique ones here. So provision 25, that's the provision that actually mentions the aircraft. So it's the DJI Inspire 2. It's certainly a bigger aircraft than pair zeros approvals. Those are usually for Mavics and Phantoms. So nice to see a bigger aircraft. Provision 32, that states that it must be a closed access or restricted access location. So this is a little more unique and maybe restrictive than pair zero, but still valuable.
Makes me think of the fact that the Inspire 2 is made for cinematography, or at least the big goal of the Inspire 2 is to provide very cinematic shots versus maybe like the Phantom 4, which is good for construction site inspections, mapping, and whatnot. So the closed site makes me think of like a movie set Um, so this is an interesting provision. Pair zero, you don't have this restriction underneath the provision. So you still could definitely use the Inspire 2 in a construction site, though that is restricted to public access. So, think of something where you have a building downtown and there's the fence that runs all the way around for noise and dust and whatnot. That would be considered restricted
Mhm.
access as long as the public can't get in. Yeah,
Yep.
kick us off with some more provisions, Jakey.
Yeah. So provision 34, it states that the operational altitude when operating over non-participating persons is 133 feet. So since the Inspire is a little bigger, it's like a 12-pound aircraft with the parachute on it. They need a little more altitude to safely deploy the parachute and actually slow it down to acceptable kinetic energy level. So that's why that's a little higher.
133 is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Mavic, or sorry, excuse me, the Phantom is about 62 feet for minimum altitude deployment. So let's just call it double. It's a little bit double on some, but so that's interesting to make up for the weight and size of the aircraft.
Hmm. Yeah, I think both the Mavic and the Phantom are about the same with
We'll have
pair
to.
zeros. So, yep. Yeah, so provision 36, another interesting one. This provision kind of implies that the RPIC, when they take off, they actually have to visually check the parachute status so that it's operational. So there must be some sort of LED. And I guess actually we've seen these at conferences. They have like a LED ring,
Yeah,
kind of
it's
kind of
actually
like a UFO looking thing.
yeah, it looks pretty sweet. It's a nice illuminated ring all the way around the
Yep.
entire cylinder.
Yep. So it seems like the RPIC has to visually check something before they can actually go out over people. So they limit the altitude even during takeoff until that's successfully completed.
I think this is actually good provision, right? Certainly when you're doing more advanced operations, making sure that you're checking that your system is fully operational and functional makes a lot of sense. So I wouldn't really put a lot of gripe into the fact that this provision is in there. It's a really good one, in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah, most guys do like a control check anyways, left, right, forward, back. So,
Right?
um, and
Checking to make sure your parachute's enabled is probably a good thing too.
yeah, yep. And we're going to cover this in some of our UAS operations over human beings training too. So, all good.
Perfect.
Provision 37, it prohibits operations over open air assemblies. And provision 38, it's also similar. It prohibits operations or sustained operations, excuse me, over a non-participant. So basically, you can't operate over like large crowds, concerts, festivals, street fairs, whatever. And you can't just sit there and hover over people. So you kind of have to be moving and not sustaining ops over them.
So that's interesting. It's a little bit different than the pair zeros provisions. Maybe this has to do with the fact that the kinetic energy is higher. I don't know what the amount of force is that the Indemnis system is letting that inspire down on the ground. So that might be part of the
Mhm.
factor. Um,
Mhm.
but interesting nonetheless, right?
Yep. Yep. And finally, the kind of the last interesting one. Well, actually, I guess it's not interesting. It's almost standard these days.
Right.
Prohibits operations over moving vehicles. That's provision 39. So the FAA is still having a really hard time approving ops over, say a road with cars on it. So hopefully they keep doing research and remove that soon here.
Or there's some UAS companies out there maybe developing some unique aircraft and some reliability standards that are acceptable to be operated on moving vehicles. I think it's only a matter of time before these things start to catch up, right?
Yeah.
Regulation is trying to keep everyone safe, and really, UAS industry is so young, and so the aircraft maturity level is extremely low, anyways. So it's okay to be cautious. It kind of puts a hindrance on letting us go run wild and do whatever we want. But I think it's for the benefit of the good of everyone, people on the ground as well as the
Mhm.
operators. Because if these do fail, you are the RPIC and you're responsible for whatever happens. So if you cause a car accident, they're certainly going to be looking at your company to compensate for any damages as well as injuries. So and certainly we can fix dented fenders, but it's pretty hard to bring back people. So we want to make sure they're safe.
Definitely.
Yeah. So
That's kind of the end.
That is the end. We are probably, if you're tuning in now, flip back to your Sunday night original programming, which is hopefully not the Browns versus the Steelers, because that was a rough Thursday night game. But we'll get you back so in case any shenanigans like that happen, you aren't missing it. That was something else, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways,
So
we won't bring too much football and politics into our conversations, but that was something else.
that
All
that
right.
Indemnis looks like the Browns orange, trim, right? So it's all related.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe they need to put some parachutes on themselves. Anyways, all right. So we hope to catch you guys back here next week for episode 2 of Waiver Watch.
Until then, fly safe, guys.
Take care.